Hi, welcome to an edition of Education Matters. Today we'll be talking to the New Jersey State School Board Member of the Year, Kerri Wright, from the District of Chester in Morris County. Welcome, Kerri. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Ray. It's really nice to be on your show.
That's great to have you. Kerri, before we get into it, tell us a little bit about the District of Chester.
Sure. So Chester is a K-8 school district nestled in the middle of Morris County. We are a great school district, probably about 1,100 students. And I'm very proud to be on that board. We have been a schools to watch 4 years in a row. So very proud of the things that we're accomplishing in Chester.
Okay, and two things. One, did you go to the school district as a student?
I did, yes. I am born and raised in Chester, other than the 3 years that I lived in Atlanta for when I was in law school. I have lived in Chester for my entire life and went through from K through 8th grade, the Chester Public Schools, so yes.
Why did you run for the Board of Education?
I ran for the board, I think probably for two reasons. One, to give back, and the other, professionally. So I started working at Porzio Bromberg in Newman as a lawyer in 2005 as a school board attorney, as you know. And this opportunity came up to run for the Board of Ed. And I thought, one, I wanted to be able to give back to my community because I had gotten so much from the school district K through 8 that I wanted to be able to give back to my community. And the other piece was more along the professional lines. I saw so many of my clients giving of their time on their school boards, and I wanted to see how school boards operate from the other side so I could give a little bit more of a perspective to my clients. And so I saw this as a unique opportunity for me to be able to give back and to get a little professionally.
So how long have you been on the board now?
I have been on the board for, I want to say, I think it's 14 years, since 2007. So I started as a lawyer in 2005 and was elected in 2007.
Okay, so that's a tough balancing act, being a board attorney and also being on the school board. You probably have seen more board meetings than most people and experience it from different aspects. How do you do that? How do you balance everything?
Very carefully, very carefully. Yeah, I have to make sure I have a really good calendar and make sure that I keep all of my dates on my calendar. But I think it has been professionally rewarding for me to see things from the other perspective, which is exactly what I had hoped I would be able to do when I ran for the board, to talk to my administrators, to see the specific details that board members get that as the board attorney I don't really usually get into. But at the same time, I feel like being a board member has made me a better attorney. So I have been compelled to stay on the board a little bit, mostly because I want to give back to my community. But there are things that as a school board attorney, I don't get involved with, like the superintendent evaluation or the board evaluation. And I really, as a school board attorney, have gotten so much valuable insight from having done it myself, sitting in the room and negotiating with my board members over what the evaluation would look like, how we would write it. So just a unique perspective I don't think I would have gotten without my service on the board.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. If someone came up to you and said they're thinking of running for the Board of Education, what would you tell them about the position that they may not know about?
I think probably the one thing I would tell them first is that the role on the board is oversight. So I think many people don't understand that as a board member, it's different than being a council member or a mayor in a small town. you really have your hired educators. And so it is important to listen to those educators, and it's important to work together with your fellow board members in order to get things done, because you're not the one who's making all of the decisions. We're during our ethics training, you learn right away that you're not to be operating the schools and running the schools. You're just making sure that they are well run by the individuals that as a board you hire. So I think that a lot of board members, when they run, don't really have a good appreciation for exactly how much control a board has over what goes on in the classroom and what goes into the budget. So that's what I would tell someone running for the board.
And say that person gets elected, or anyone gets elected to the board, what do you feel is the key to being an effective board member?
Listening, flexibility, compromise. I feel like over the last couple of years, compromise has suddenly turned into like a dirty word, and people are less willing to compromise. And I think being willing to have an idea in your mind of where you want to go with a particular issue when you sit down at the dais and you're looking at your agenda, but also being willing to listen not only to your administrators, but your fellow board members and the community, and being willing to be flexible and compromise on what you may have thought was the best approach going in, but listening to your fellow board members and the community. I think that makes an effective board member.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Listening is a great leadership skill that it's not always practiced.
No, it's not.
One of the other things, the last 20 months or so, the pandemic has put a little more pressure on both boards of education and the school administrators. What advice do you give in the last 20 months, because you've seen it from many different perspectives, that you would give to board members and or maybe even an administrator?
I think the best advice I have is hang in there. It'll be over soon. We'll be through this pandemic. But I really think understanding and empathy will go a long way for people. I think that not taking things too personally, because there's a lot of public opinion out there. There's a little bit of anger too. And I think it's important not to take things too personally, but also to understand and be empathetic with the people who are coming to our board meetings, people that are running into us at the local grocery store and on the soccer fields, and just really trying to understand what other people are going through, understand their position, what their experiences are. I think it'll get us all through this if we could just be a little bit more empathetic and understanding.
Okay, let's end on a positive note, couple of positive notes.
Okay.
How did it feel just to be nominated for Board Member of the Year? Because it came locally, so that you gotta feel a little bit proud about that.
I am. So I have gotten to know my superintendent. It was one of the first things I did. So I was nominated by Dr. Christina Van Wart, the superintendent in Chester. And one of the first things I did when I first was elected to the board was hire Dr. Van Wart as our superintendent. So I have had the opportunity to work with her for the entire time I've been on the board. And so having her nominate me was just really emotionally was a great moment. It was really great to hear that, she had that level of respect for me, that she took the time out of her schedule to put together what I assume took her a good amount of time to put together. So it was really overwhelming. I'm flattered very much.
And so you were not only nominated, you did win. And there was good competition. And for those who don't know, this is decided by people outside of this state. We put it to another school board association, another state association. So they look at things impartially. What was your reaction when you found out you won?
When Larry called me to give me the good news, I nearly cried. So it was overwhelming to me that I've known people that have been on boards for 30 years. And I thought I hadn't served long enough. I hadn't done enough. I mean, the group of people who were also nominated, just fantastic board members who've contributed so much all over the state. I was humbled. It was great. It was a great feeling, very humbling.
Okay, well, that brings us to the end. Kerri, I want to congratulate you personally. We've worked before on some projects together, and I know this award is well deserved. So I'd like to congratulate Kerri Wright from the Chester Board of Education for being New Jersey State's Board Member of the Year.